Hi everybody. Today, I'd like to discuss the topic of meta-commentary. For those of you who don't know, meta-commentary is commentary about commentary. I mean to discuss in at least some form of depth the impact that critiques and analytic videos have on us as a community, and specifically how we should view analyses, and what we should do with the information and concepts as they are brought up to us by these kinds of videos. As most of you undoubtedly know, the My Little Pony community is a black sheep among fandoms. We have shown an amazing amount of creative potential, and have been growing steadily since the airing of our source material. Eventually, critique videos came up, and with them, literary analysis videos did as well. The work that these analysts do, and this is particular with analysts, apart from critics and comics, have a noticeable impact on the community. Critiques and analyses are very similar to each other, and I'd like to begin by differentiating the two. Critique videos in My Little Pony, along with impression and reaction videos, explore the nuts and bolts of the show. And by nuts and bolts, I mean the plot of any particular episode, the immediate impact it has on the fandom, and how it makes us feel on an emotional level. A good example of very good critique videos are Brony Curious's series of impression videos. These videos do not delve too deep into thinking of each episode, instead focusing on just the surface level tensions in each episode, and how they relate with other episodes. They are just what Brony Curious says they are, impressions of each episode. They may contain subjective viewpoints, like whether or not the author favors one episode over another, and may even go into the reasons why the author would have preferences. At the end of the day, however, critique videos will never add anything to the content, and will stick to what is explicit in the episode. Analytic videos are where the real meat of new information and extrapolation originates from. Analytic videos, much like critique videos, explore themes and compare episodes to one another, and on this level they are quite similar. The goal of analysis, however, is quite different from a critique. They both have subjective elements and opinions, and it is here that analysis truly diverges from a simple critique or commentary. Whereas critique videos will have opinions about whether or not the author likes or dislikes an episode, or whether or not it is a good or a bad episode, analytic videos do not do this. Instead of a clear opinion on whether or not the episode is good for the franchise, the established platform of the characters and their dynamic, analytic videos will go one step further and look at the video's merits to society and viewership as a whole. Analysis offers us a very in-depth look at where the ideas from the show came from. To drive the point home, if it hasn't sunken in yet, a critique video will discuss whether or not it was a good decision to put Cerebus into a children's cartoon in the episode It's About Time. And an analytic video will go into the importance of Cerebus and what it means on a deeper level, whether or not we should feel a connection to the mythos it comes from, and what we should take away from its appearance. I said before that analysis videos are special in the way it affects the fandom community. What I mean by this is with critique videos, most, if not all of the content, while rooted in explicit details coming from each episode, is purely opinion. This means that anyone viewing a critique is free to agree or disagree with the resulting score that the author puts on the episode. This is what it means to be a critic and what it means to do criticism. With analysis, because of the fact that most of the information explored is implicit, and the resultant analysis, the result of connecting various ideas and mythos, coupled with trying to find a real-life interpretation, it's hard to argue with it. Instead, what most analysis videos get into trouble with are not the opinions that it generates, but whether or not the implicit data is valid. If that was a bit wordy, an easier way to explain would be to explore the concept of headcanon in general. Headcanon is the result of complex analysis. I'll go into a few personally convincing or interesting ones that I've come across as examples. First up, Anthony C's first headcanon. I mean this to be when he mentions that he wishes to interpret Princess Celestia as a monotheistic god of the Judeo-Christian variety. Although he says something along the lines of, "Why do I think so? Because it's Celestia being an omnipotent god," more interesting that way, is very clearly stated as an opinion, the implications that follows are not. He goes on to say that if his basic assumption, or the implicit information garnered from his analysis and interpretation of the character of Celestia is true, then so must follow a few mind-racking points. One of which is, if you have God in your story, everything is her way, or the highway. And this concept would bring Celestia into immediate scrutiny. The second, again from Anthony C., is the second headcanon that he explores after the events of Canterlot Wedding. He goes to draw in an intricate relationship between the realm of Ea, J.R.R. Tolkien's universe of the Middle-earth, and its creation into the story of My Little Pony. He goes upon this line of thinking, trying to weave together the rather haphazardly thrown information into the viewer in the Season 2 finale. In brief, I'll summarize. In his video about Canterlot Wedding, Anthony C. and Brony Curious explore the idea that if the episode was a grand allegoric story, it would draw relation to J.R.R. Tolkien's Silmarillion. In Tolkien's Silmarillion, God created the world and handed off to his Valar, or his angels, to keep order and manage the world. One of the Valar fell and became evil. Subsequently, the Valar tried to steal the light of the world and plunge it into eternal darkness. Later, this Valar finds himself back into the loving bosom of friendship and polite company, but all the while he was secretly plotting his revenge, and a second coming. Brony Curious and Antony draw this relationship to say that Princess Luna, Nightmare Moon, and Queen Chrysalis are the same person by this line of thought. Princess Luna, one of the illusory Valar, is secretly evil and has planned since day one to plunge the world into eternal darkness. Her plan, being foiled the first time by Celestia, resulted in her banishment to the moon for a millennium. Princess Luna plots her revenge, and when the stars aid in her escape, she is again stopped by a group of lesser beings, much like how the fallen angel Melkor met his match in the Silmarillion. So Princess Luna plots again, this time becoming the entity of Queen Chrysalis, attempting to steal the light of the world, love. He goes on to present meaningful allegory to religion and philosophy, so if you have the time, I definitely suggest you go check it out. It is a bit lengthy though, so be prepared for that. In any case, these two analyses I believe have allowed me to show something very integral to both the conceptualization of headcanons and how we interpret the characters in the show as a whole. While critique is important for understanding the material and explicit data brought up in the show, its importance is really dwarfed by the importance of analysis, since analysis is the stage and level where new ideas are brought to light. Some ideas are even capable of changing the entire way legions of people look at an episode, and could fundamentally alter their future perception of characters in the show. It is worth noting that community of bronies are especially conducive to this type of creativity, since we are always going on about how we should love and tolerate both the active aggressors and the passively ignorant. We are very accepting to new ideas. This is not to say all bronies are like this, and we have our fair share of prejudice. However, since My Little Pony is such a controversial show and topic in mainstream media, and because of our pride in it, I believe that this community is not without fault, but is mostly supportive of new ideas, concepts, and new interpretation. Malcolm Gladwell, along with many interesting ideas and correlations he explores in his book Outliers, brings up the concept of the quality of the community around you directly corresponding to how well an individual's natural analytical and divergent or creative intelligence is cultivated and used to further the goals of the individual. And beyond that, noting special outliers receiving this treatment will go on to further the limits of human understanding in the literary and scientific fields of study. Gladwell explores the differences in the community by the extrema, to make his point more noticeable and pronounced, but the effects are still there every bit as profound as it is at the extrema in more subtle cases. It's an interesting iota of information that even this small difference can make a large impact in the application of an individual's natural-born or cultured intelligence. Given all of this information then, how should the viewer interpret these videos? What should we assume when watching new episodes of My Little Pony as we approach Season 4 and the much controversial direction of Alicorn Princess Twilight Sparkle? My answer is not something that is conclusive, but I think it to be the most correct. Make up your own damn mind. What does that mean? I mean to say that although analytics and critique are important and you should watch them to broaden your understanding, appreciation, and conceptualization of the show, you should leave all of those ideas behind you when watching new episodes. I don't mean to forget all the ideas, but rather to leave all presumptions at the door, much like we all did when we started watching this show. Analysis and critique are very effective mediums and methods for us to broaden the scope of our understanding and interpretation, and we should use them as tools to look at future content. This doesn't apply just to Season 4 in Twilighcorn, but to all things in life. This means that controversial issues and problems you have in life could benefit from an open heart and a rational mind. I personally believe that it's wonderful that we live in a time where we, as a fairly large community, have the opportunity to support ourselves in this manner. Yes, analytics are important, critiques are important, and just knowledge and historical wisdom are. But compared to the possibilities that not only our community has in keeping this open mind, if we are to express these mindsets of acceptance and compromise into other, more mainstream mediums, then we can maybe achieve something greater than just ourselves. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you have some comments, or disagreements even, about this video, please leave them in the comments below.